The Johnsons were your average family. They liked pizza, they loved movie nights. Every Friday, without fail, they would gather around the TV, armed with an assortment of snacks, ready to dive into the latest blockbuster or binge-watch their favourite series. It was their sacred tradition, a time to unwind and bond over cheesy dialogue and buttery popcorn. And they definitely weren't strangers to the couch. The couch was their kingdom, a plush fortress where they could escape the stresses of the outside world. It was where they laughed, argued, and sometimes even napped. Each cushion held a story, each throw pillow a memory. There was Phil, the dad, who believed every channel on the TV was the sports channel. Whether it was football, basketball, or even curling, Phil was there, remote in hand, ready to cheer or groan at the latest play. His passion for sports was infectious, even if the rest of the family didn't always share his enthusiasm. Then came Susan, the mom, who could find a sale on anything. She had a knack for sniffing out bargains, whether it was groceries, clothes, or home decor. Her eyes would light up at the sight of a 50% off sign, and she took pride in her ability to save the family money while still keeping them stylish and well-fed. And let's not forget 16-year-old Mike, glued to his phone. Mike was the tech guru of the family, always up to date with the latest apps and social media trends. His phone was an extension of his hand, and he could often be found scrolling through memes, texting friends, or playing the latest mobile game. And 14-year-old Emma, who rolled her eyes more than she blinked. Emma was the family's resident skeptic, always questioning and challenging the status quo. Her eye rolls were legendary, often accompanied by a sarcastic comment or a dramatic sigh. But beneath her teenage angst, she had a heart of gold and a sharp wit that kept everyone on their toes. Yep, just your average, comfy family. They had their quirks and their routines, but they loved each other fiercely. Their home was filled with laughter, love, and the occasional sibling squabble. It was a place where everyone could be themselves, flaws and all. The new year rolled around, and like everyone else on the planet, the Johnsons decided it was time for a change. They sat around the dining table discussing their resolutions and dreams for the year ahead. It was a moment of hope and determination, a chance to start fresh and make positive changes. This year it was going to be about health. They were determined to break free from their sedentary habits and embrace a more active lifestyle. They envisioned themselves running marathons, lifting weights, and becoming the epitome of fitness. No more lounging, snacking, or channel surfing. They were ready to trade in their chips for kale chips, their sodas for smoothies. The TV remote would gather dust as they embarked on their new fitness journey. At least that was the plan. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were committed to making a change. They set goals, made schedules, and even created a family fitness chart to track their progress.
This year, we're becoming the fittest family ever, Phil declared, his voice filled with excitement and determination. The rest of the family cheered, their spirits high and their resolve strong.
Phil declared, accidentally spraying cookie crumbs across the room. It was a comical moment, a reminder that old habits die hard, but it also showed their willingness to laugh at themselves and keep moving forward. Susan nodded enthusiastically, already browsing for matching workout outfits online. She was excited about the prospect of a healthier lifestyle and couldn't wait to find the perfect gear to motivate them. Mike groaned, convinced this was a ploy to limit his screen time. He wasn't thrilled about the idea of giving up his digital world, but he reluctantly agreed to join the family challenge. Emma, ever the optimist, saw an opportunity for hilarious TikToks. She was already brainstorming funny skits and workout fails to share with her followers. For her, this challenge was a chance to combine fitness with fun. And so, the Johnson Family Fitness Challenge was born. They started with small steps, incorporating daily walks and simple exercises into their routine. They encouraged each other, celebrated small victories, and laughed at their missteps. Little did they know, this resolution would lead to more laughs than sculpted abs. Their journey was filled with unexpected twists and turns. But through it all, they grew closer as a family. They discovered that the true reward wasn't in the physical transformation, but in the joy and connection they found along the way. Phil, armed with the boundless enthusiasm of someone who'd only ever seen exercise on TV, decided to invest in some home gym equipment. He envisioned the garage transformed, a gleaming beacon of fitness. The reality, however, was a tad different. Boxes arrived daily, filled with mysterious contraptions and intimidating instructions. There was a treadmill that looked like it could launch a rocket, a set of weights that made Phil grunt just looking at them, and a stability ball that seemed to have a life of its own.
"It's like a spaceship landed in our garage,"
exclaimed Emma, filming her dad's attempts to assemble a weight bench. Mike, ever the helpful son, offered to time his dad's struggles. Susan, meanwhile, was already browsing online for matching sweatbands and water bottles. The Johnsons were ready to get fit, or at least they were definitely ready to laugh at their attempts. Yoga seemed like a good idea on paper.
"It'll be relaxing."
Susan had promised, picturing a serene family finding their inner peace. The reality, as with most things Johnson-related, was anything but peaceful. Picture this: Phil, struggling to maintain his balance, resembling more of a wobbly flamingo than a graceful yogi. Susan, determined to nail every pose, inadvertently kicking Mike in the face. Mike, using the meditation time to check his social media. And Emma, well, let's just say she found a new appreciation for the flexibility of her phone as she documented the entire chaotic session for posterity.
Who knew bending could be so complicated?
Phil groaned, collapsing onto his yoga mat with an audible thump. The family agreed maybe yoga wasn't for them, at least not until they invested in some helmets and bubble wrap. Determined to conquer the great outdoors, the Johnsons decided to embark on a family jog. They had been planning this for weeks, gathering all the necessary gear and hyping themselves up for a fun, healthy activity.
The plan was simple: a light jog around the park, enjoy the fresh air, and maybe even spot a squirrel or two. They mapped out their route, ensuring it was scenic and not too strenuous. They were excited about the possibility of encountering some wildlife, especially the kids who loved animals. What could possibly go wrong? They were all set, or so they thought.
Well, for starters, no one had clarified the meaning of jog. Each family member had a different interpretation of what a jog entailed.
Phil took off like a greyhound released from its leash, sprinting at full speed as if he was in a race, leaving the rest of the family trailing in his dust, struggling to keep up with his unexpected burst of energy.
Susan, in her defense, was distracted by a particularly tempting sale on patio furniture. She couldn't resist stopping to check out the prices and styles.
Mike, headphones firmly in place, was oblivious to the world around him. He was lost in his music, completely unaware of the chaos unfolding around him.
And Emma, well, she decided to turn the jog into her own personal interpretive dance routine, twirling and leaping with joy, much to the amusement of passers-by who couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm.
"Next time, we're carpooling," Susan declared, realizing that their idea of a family jog needed some serious rethinking.
Gasped Susan, as they finally caught up with Phil, who was busy challenging a squirrel to a race. Phil, ever the competitor, was determined to outpace the little creature. The squirrel, however, seemed more interested in its acorn than the impromptu race. The Johnsons returned home, sweaty, slightly traumatized, and with a newfound appreciation for the sedentary life. They realized that perhaps a family movie night or board game might be a better way to bond. They laughed about their misadventure, each sharing their own perspective of the chaotic jog. Despite the mishaps, they agreed it was a memorable experience, one that they would talk about for years to come. And who knows, maybe next time, with a bit more planning and communication, they might just get that perfect family jog they had envisioned. Circuit training, as it turned out, was less about electrical circuits and more about pushing the Johnsons' physical limits, or at least trying to. The idea had seemed simple enough, a series of exercises performed in rotation with minimal rest in between, but the reality was far more chaotic and entertaining.
Armed with a mishmash of online workout videos and sheer determination, they transformed their living room into a makeshift gym. The coffee table was pushed aside, the rug rolled up, and the TV screen became their virtual trainer. Each family member had their own favorite workout video, leading to a cacophony of different instructions and music blaring from various devices.
There were jumping jacks that looked more like startled starfish, with arms and legs flailing in all directions. The kids found it hilarious, often collapsing into giggles mid-jump, which only added to the confusion. Push-ups that resembled awkward attempts at breakdancing were a common sight. Phil, in particular, seemed to have a unique style that involved more rolling than pushing. His grunts and groans were a soundtrack of their own, and lunges that had Phil questioning if his legs were supposed to bend that way. Each lunge was an adventure, with Phil often losing his balance and toppling over, much to the amusement of his family.
Mike, in a rare moment of enthusiasm, attempted a handstand, only to topple over, taking down a lamp and a framed photo of Susan's prize-winning casserole. The crash was spectacular, and the aftermath involved a lot of laughter and a bit of cleanup.
"I think I pulled a hamstring," groaned Phil, collapsing onto the sofa. His face contorted in exaggerated pain, making everyone laugh even harder. The sofa became his refuge, a place to recover from the unexpected rigors of their workout, which was definitely not part of the circuit. Or maybe it was the curtains, he added, noticing the fabric dangling precariously from the curtain rod. The room was a mess, with furniture askew and various items knocked over. The Johnsons surveyed the chaos, a mixture of exhaustion and amusement on their faces. They'd set out to get fit, but what they got was a hilarious bonding experience that none of them would forget anytime soon. One thing was for sure, circuit training was definitely anything but boring. It was a roller coaster of effort, laughter, and unexpected mishaps. And while they might not have achieved peak physical fitness, they had certainly strengthened their family bonds. In the end, it wasn't about perfect form or completing every exercise flawlessly. It was about trying, laughing, and supporting each other through every awkward push-up and clumsy lunge. The Johnsons had discovered that sometimes the best workouts are the ones that bring you closer together. As they settled down for a well-deserved rest, they knew that their living room gym would see many more sessions of circuit confusion, and that was perfectly okay with them.